If you'd have told me 9 months ago that I'd be sitting on a beach in Barbados, sipping rum punches and soaking up the Caribbean sunshine, I'd have laughed in your face. I've always been a gambler, and even though Lady Luck rarely seemed to smile on me, I never gave up my dream of making that big killing. What do you know? My patience finally paid off. But not in the way that I ever expected. I mean, it wasn't a string of winners at Ascot or the Romford Dogs, not a lucky strike on the roulette wheel or in a poker school, not even the habitual gambler's last resort, a national lottery ticket. Oh no, it was something quite different. It all started when I got this mysterious phone call. Hello?
Am I speaking to Mr. James McIver?
Well, nobody I know calls me James, so it's probably someone I owe money to. Time I changed my mobile number. Well, according to the screen, it's old Roger. I haven't heard from him in ages. I wonder what he wants. Hi, Rog. Long time no hear. How you diddling?
It's not Roger. Please don't hang up, Mr. McIver, until I've explained the reason for my call. My name is Reginald Thring, and I'm the late Mr. Soul's solicitor. I was wondering if you could visit me at my office in order to discuss an important matter concerning his last will and testament.
Is this some kind of wind-up?
Indeed not. I can assure you, Mr. McIver, this is absolutely genuine.
Old Roger's popped his clogs. But he couldn't have been more than 55.
54, I believe. He hadn't been well for some time, so he was able to make extremely careful and detailed provisions in his will before he actually passed away.
What's that got to do with me? I haven't seen him in a long time, and we weren't exactly close.
I'd rather not go into detail over the telephone, but if you care to come and see me in my office, I can assure you that it could be to your advantage. Shall we say tomorrow at 2 o'clock? My office is situated on Highgate.
Well, OK then.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Yeah, laters. So that's how it started. Little did I realise what I was getting myself into.
We present Ashes to Ashford by Nigel Banks.
Good afternoon, Mr. McIver. Thank you for coming. Do take a seat. Now, I'm sure you'll be curious to know why I've summoned you here, and I assure you that all will be revealed in due course. However, I have to say that the late Mr. Soul's estate is an extremely complex affair, so I do ask you to bear with me as I explain the relevant details to you.
Yeah, I must admit, all this cloak and dagger stuff has certainly tickled my fancy. I'm all ears.
So, where to start? I have handled the late Mr. Soul's legal affairs for many years now. Conveyancing of properties, a divorce settlement, setting up deeds of trust, all that sort of thing. I must have met him many times in the past, purely in a professional capacity. He always struck me as being very prudent and logical in his approach to his legal and financial affairs, which is why what I'm about to tell you about certain provisions in his will seems uncharacteristically whimsical on his part.
So, how does all this affect me? As I said, I hadn't clapped eyes on Rog for a while now. And the last time we met, we didn't exactly part on the best of terms.
Yes, a small matter of an unpaid debt, I believe.
Oh, so you know about that?
Yes. Mr. Soul went into considerable background detail when setting up his will. He came to see me shortly after being diagnosed with an inoperable cancer. Not knowing exactly how much longer he had to live, he was anxious to set all his affairs in order and not to leave any unfinished business behind him, as he put it. The aspect of his will which concerns you is related to the disposal of his remains.
Do what?
Indeed, it struck me as rather idiosyncratic. But I am merely the factotum, whose role is to ensure that my client's wishes are carried out.
You mean, don't shoot me, I'm only the piano player?
Quite. Perhaps it would be better if I read out Mr. Soul's own words, so you get all the necessary information straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, before making your decision.
Decision?
Patience, Mr. McIver. Dear Jimmy, assuming Mr. Thring has managed to track you down, you'll be sitting in his office when you hear this, and I'll have shuffled off my mortal coil. We go back a long way, don't we, Jimmy? You were a couple of years below me
at school,
but
I took you under my wing, didn't I? Protected you from the bullies, Introduced you to the delights of card playing, courtesy of that poker school I used to run behind the bike sheds at lunchtimes. But you never seemed to learn the golden rule of the poker player. Quit while you're ahead. I was forever having to lend you money to pay your debts. I'd have thought the interest rate I charged would have cured you, but oh no. You always came back for more.
Yeah, I was always overplaying my hands. Rog, though, he knew when to fold, or when to up the ante. He was a natural. But he could take it or leave it. Me, I was hooked straight away. Real addict material.
If I may continue.
You left school after taking your O-levels, whereas I stayed on into the sixth form and then went on to university. So our paths didn't cross for some years. When we did eventually meet up again, it was the same old story. Here, Rog, you couldn't lend me a few quid, could you? I'm a bit short, as it happens, and I need to settle an IOU. I was too soft-hearted, so I always obliged. Maybe it was because I felt sorry for your dear old ma. You were still living at home and putting on her instead of making your own way in the world. You've always been a sponger, Jimmy, not a grafter. Skyver McIver, they called you at school. And that nickname held good in your adult life too, didn't it? Remember that dry cleaning business you persuaded me to invest in?
Oh, don't I just. Worst decision of my life. I thought it'd be a doddle. You know, find some suitable premises to rent, get the machines installed, hire some staff, and off you go. But it's not that easy. There's the advertising, building up your customers. First few months you're paying out with hardly anything coming in. You can't afford to pay the staff, so you end up having to do all the work yourself. The heat, the smell of the dry cleaning fluid.
It must have been dreadful, I'm sure. Mr. Sowell goes on to say...
When the going got tough, you just walked away, leaving me to clear up all the mess. Story of your life, eh, Jimmy? One failed project after another. The pity of it is, you're a bright boy. You could have made something of yourself. But you just weren't prepared to do the hard yards. So, here's the deal. You're going to get one last chance from beyond the grave to redeem yourself. If you stick rigidly to the conditions I've set down and see this challenge through to the end, there'll be a substantial reward waiting for you. But if you don't think you're up to the challenge, or if you quit halfway through, you get nothing, except my undying contempt.
Never one to mince his words, old Rog. So, what do I have to do to get my reward?
It's a little complicated, I'm afraid. Mr. Sowell has set down some extremely specific instructions. I quote,
I am not a religious man. When you're dead as far as I'm concerned. Nor am I a great believer in posterity. It's what a man does during his allotted span of years that counts. Not big things either. It's those small acts of kindness and generosity that define him. Having said that, I like the idea of my ashes being returned to the four elements whence they came. For that reason, I've left instructions with the firm of undertakers that handle my funeral and cremation that my ashes be divided into 4 equal shares. I would like them to be strewn in the locations I shall specify below. I nominate Mr. James McIver to carry out this request under the supervision of my solicitor, Mr. Reginald Thring. To ensure that my wishes have been strictly adhered to, I require Mr. McIver to produce genuine photographic evidence as well as documentary proof in the form of travel tickets and hotel receipts. Mr. Thring will be the final arbiter as to the veracity of the evidence. If he has the slightest shred of doubt, he is empowered to disqualify Mr. McIver from receiving the reward. Mr. McIver has 24 hours from the end of his interview with Mr. Thring in which to decide whether he wishes to accept the challenge. If he refuses, or subsequently fails to fulfill the quest, the reward money will be distributed evenly among the charities I have nominated.
The cunning old devil. He knew I couldn't resist a punt. But he's put all these conditions into the mix, so I can't cheat. I may have been Skyver McIver, but he was always rightly known as Roger the Dodger.
So, there you have it, Mr. McIver. I'll need to know your decision in person, one way or the other, by 2:45 tomorrow afternoon. You'll be required to sign an affidavit if you accept the challenge.
Then what?
Then I reveal the first location and the date by which the ashes must be deposited there. When you have completed the task, you return here with the appropriate documentary and photographic evidence. Assuming that to be satisfactory, I reveal the second destination. The process is then repeated until all 4 stages of the quest have been fulfilled and ratified.
So, if I do accept the challenge, how much do I stand to get?
I couldn't possibly say at this stage. Probate is still to be granted, and that could take months. Mr. Soul had a considerable portfolio of stocks, bonds and shares, as well as several bank accounts, some of them offshore, I believe. I think you can take it that he was a man of considerable means.
Music to my ears. Well, Mr. Thring, I shall give this considerable thought and get back to you with my decision in the near future.
Very good. Here's my card for future reference. I look forward to hearing from you. Good day, Mr. McIver.
Yeah, see ya. So now you know the score. All I have to do is dump 4 lots of old Roger's ashes in different places, take pickies to prove I've done as I'm told, and then it's pass go and collect a large amount of spondoolies. But these things are never as easy as they seem. One problem springs to mind straight away. If I have to take a photo of myself in the act of disposing of the ashes, I'd need 3 arms at least. No, I'm going to need to get help. An accomplice. Someone who is easily suggestible, doesn't ask too many questions, and who won't need paying much for their troubles. I know just the fella. My old mate Dermot Murphy, or Spud to his friends. I decided to sound him out before contacting Mr. Thring again. I knew where to find Spud, at his favourite watering hole, the Dog and Duck. Watcha, Spud, me old China. How's tricks?
Well now, Jimmy, I can't complain. This old lumbago has given me a chip, but otherwise I'm tickety-boo.
What are you having?
Now that's awful civil of you, sir. I'll need to give my choice of libation some thought.
I'll leave it out, Spud. It's either a pint of the black stuff or a Jameson's, and seeing as I'm in a generous mood, I shall purchase you both of the aforesaid beverages.
My, but you're waxing lyrical tonight. And I don't mind if I do.
A pint of Stella, another Guinness for Spud here, plus a Jameson's, please, Fred.
Coming up.
I'm glad I bumped into you, Spud. I've got a little business proposition to put to you.
It's nothing illegal, I hope. I'm still on probation, you know.
Nah, nothing like that. It's cushy, I swear, on my mother's grave.
But your mother's still alive. I saw her last week coming out of the bingo hall.
Well, yeah, it's just a figure of speech. You know what I mean.
You shouldn't joke about things like that. Wishing your mammy into an early grave.
Yeah, okay.
Fine, upstanding woman that she is.
I'm sorry, all right? It was a slip of the tongue. Although, as it happens, the business I wanted to discuss with you does involve death.
Ah, no. If it's bumping somebody off we're talking about, you can count me out. I don't want anything to do with that sort of caper.
No, it's nothing like that. What'd you take me for? No, all you have to do is take a few photos of me spreading this dead guy's ashes in different places. It's a piece of cake. And there'll be some readies in your pocket at the end of it. Come on, what'd you say?
Sounds a bit dodgy to me. Why would you want to be spreading a dead man's ashes around? That's creepy.
Look, I don't want to go into detail in a public place. There's a clock running on this, and I just need to know if you'll help me out with this. So, are you in, or are you out?
Well, I'm not sure. This'll take a bit of time thinking about it.
You mean another pint and a chaser? That sort of thinking time.
You're a marvel, Jimmy. A real mind reader.
So that was Spud on board as my trusty sidekick. He may not be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but at least he does as he's told. Next day, I'm back in Thring's office to sign up for old Roger's challenge.
Then if you could just sign this additional document. It's just an insurance liability waiver.
What's that when it's at home?
In the event of you having some kind of accident or being taken ill during the disposal procedures, you agree not to make a claim for compensation against Mr. Soul's estate.
That figures. Old Roger always knew how to cover his back.
True, but I believe he also covered yours on several occasions.
Indeed he did, and I'll always be grateful.
Good. So now's your chance to show your gratitude by carrying out his last wish. Sign here, please. Thank you. Now, time to learn about your first challenge. The details of each stage are contained in separate marked envelopes. Dear Jimmy, now that you've agreed to accept my request, here is your first challenge.
You are to collect the first metal flask containing a quarter of my remains from Martindale and Crossman, the undertakers, who will have been notified of your arrival, and then take it to the eastern end of platform 5 at Ashford International Railway Station. You are to throw my ashes in the path of a departing Eurostar train bound for the continent. Why there, you may ask? Well, for a few years as a lad, as you may remember, I was a train spotter. I once persuaded you to come along with me, but it wasn't your cup of tea, so I never bothered asking you again. I spent many a happy day on that platform collecting train numbers. I was especially taken by the boat trains heading for Dover or Folkestone. I used to watch the passengers sitting in the carriages and wonder what exotic places they were going to on the other side of the channel. So it seems a fitting place for some of my ashes to be returned to Earth. You need to expedite this first part of the challenge by June 30th. Good luck, Jimmy.
Oh, blimey, we're already 2 weeks into June, so it doesn't give me long. Still, it shouldn't be too difficult. Famous last words. I contact Spud to arrange the day we're going to Ashford, only to discover he's laid up with his bad back, so we have to wait until he's mobile again. It's Thursday, June 29th, when we get there, so we're cutting it fine. Right, Spud, platform 5, quick as you can. There's a Eurostar train due in 5 minutes.
I'm going as fast as me bad back will let me.
OK, here we are, eastern end of platform 5, just in time.
I was just thinking...
Here's the camera. If you line up the shot, I'll get the flask out of the bag and break the seal.
It's just...
Hurry up, the train will be here any minute.
But you know...
What?
Well, if my memory serves me right, we came in at this end of the station on our train from London, so...
So what's your point?
Then I'm after thinking this would be the western end, not the eastern. I'm just saying, like...
Shite. We'll never get to the other end of the platform in time now.
Not with my bad back, we won't. But does it really matter? I mean, one end of a platform looks like the other. Your man, the solicitor's not going to know the difference from a photograph.
I wouldn't bank on it. No, I've got to carry out the instructions to the letter. Otherwise, I won't get the reward. The reward of knowing that I fulfilled my late friend's final wishes.
Sure, that's very laudable of you. I admire a man with integrity.
Well, you know, it's the least I can do. He was a good friend to me in my times of need. Anyway, let's make our way slowly to the other end. We've missed this train now. We'll just have to wait for the next one. I'm sure it won't be long. Wrong. I should have been more thorough and checked the timetable beforehand. Eurostar trains don't stop at Ashford much anymore. They tend to stop at Ebbsfleet and then flash through Ashford at a rate of knots. We had to wait 3 hours in the station buffet drinking horrible cups of tea before the next one came along. And then that wasn't the end of the story. I just managed to empty the ashes onto the track off the end of the platform just as the Eurostar train was pulling out. I could see the driver was looking suspiciously at me. But of course, with all these modern communication devices they have, he must have contacted the station master, because the next thing we hear is...
Oh, you! What do you think you're doing?
Nothing. We're just watching the trains. We're train spotters.
Oh, yeah. Pull the other one.
No, he's right, sir. That is indeed what we are. Spotters of the train.
Oh, really? Well, in that case, seeing as our train has just left from this very platform, one which you presumably spotted, yeah?
Indeed, sir. We spotted it. Spot on, so to speak.
Well, you'll be able to tell me its number then, won't you? Because you'll have written it down in your nice little train-spotting book.
No, sir. That wouldn't be the case. Because I store all the numbers in my head. Like, I don't write them down.
It's at this point, just as I'm about to say, OK, mate, yeah, you got us banged to rights, that Spud reveals a hitherto unknown talent. He's got a photographic memory. Not only can he tell this job's worth the numbers of the Eurostar train that's just left, but he starts reeling off the numbers of trains that have been coming in and out of Ashford Station over the last 3 hours. You should have seen the look on this Jobsworth's face. It was priceless. If his jaw had dropped any lower, it would have covered his navel. I then chip in and say, I never bother bringing a notebook either, because I just get my mate with the amazing memory to tell me all the numbers when we get home. And when he asks what was being emptied off the end of the platform, I hold up the flask and tell him it was the last of the tea we'd brought with us while we were train spotting. And he swallowed it. Hook, line and sinker. Lets us off with a caution for dropping liquid litter, as he put it. And off we go. Later than planned, but with stage 1 of the quest successfully completed.
Well, that all seems to be in order. The date on your train ticket and the photograph confirms that the ashes were indeed emptied onto the track at Ashford Station on Thursday, June 29th. So, on to the second instalment. Congratulations, Jimmy, on completing the first stage successfully. Things get a little more demanding from here on in, but I'm relying on your powers of invention and ingenuity to see you through.
I might have guessed he'd make life difficult for me. No pain, no gain was one of his favourite sayings.
This is your second challenge. My first lot of ashes went onto the earth.
I would like my second lot to be spread on water. On the sea, to be precise. When I was a boy, we had a family holiday one year on the Firth of Clyde in Scotland. They used to have pleasure boats, steamers that plied up and down the waters, calling in at the various resorts and offering cruises to the Lochs and out to the Isle of Arran and the Mull of Kintyre. My father took me on this particular cruise round Ailsa Craig. It's a small uninhabited island that sticks out of the sea. Its nickname is Bun Island because it looks just like one. It's home to thousands of seabirds that nest and breed on it, gannets, guillemots and puffins. I always remember that day. It was gloriously sunny, and when the steamer sounded its hooter, a great cloud of birds took off from the island in fright. The pleasure steamers are all long gone now, apart from one. She's a paddle steamer, the last seagoing paddle steamer in the world, called the Waverley. And she still does a cruise to Ailsa Craig from Glasgow in the summer. So, Jimmy, get yourself booked onto her and strew my ashes over the briny as close to Bun Island as you can get. I would like this stage to be completed by the end of August.
The Waverley? That rings a bell. I think I've read something about her somewhere. But I guess I'll need to do a bit of internet browsing to find out more details.
This challenge shouldn't prove too difficult for someone with your resourcefulness.
I'll find out all the necessary info, and I'll go and collect a second flask from the undertakers.
Bon voyage.
Yeah, bonjour, Matelot. To you too. So, I do all the necessary interweb research and discover that this paddle steamer only does 3 cruises to Ailsa Craig during July and August on a Monday, and it means getting to Glasgow for 10 o'clock in the morning. Well, I rarely get out of bed before 11, so that's going to make life awkward, to say the least. Plus, when I talk over my plans with Mr. Spud Murphy in the pub that evening, it gets even more complicated.
No.
Why not?
What? Stay overnight in a hotel in Glasgow? Oh, no. Out of the question.
Well, you've been banned from there as well, have you?
Oh, very funny. No, I can't leave Mickey all on his own for 2 days. He needs feeding and walking.
Well, can't you get someone else to look after him? A neighbour?
You're joking? I wouldn't trust any of my neighbours with looking after my dog. Thieves and vagabonds, the lot of them. Nah, you'll have to do this one on your Todd.
Kennels. You could put him into a kennel for a couple of days.
What? Do you think I'm made of money?
I'll pay.
Can I have that in writing?
Scout's honour, I will pay for you to put your dog Mickey into a reputable kennels for 2 days and nights.
You were never in the Scouts. Why would you go to all that trouble?
Well, because I need you there to take the money shot.
Money shot? You're not planning on doing a porno film, I hope. I'm not into any of that kind of stuff.
It was a figure of speech, Spud. I mean, I need you to be there clicking the shutter at the exact moment I heave old Roger's ashes over the side of the boat. And preferably at least a couple more of them lying on the water.
I don't like boats. I get awful seasick. Reminds me of the time I first sailed over here. Puked my guts up all the way across the Irish Sea.
It'll be fine. This trip's in sheltered waters at the height of summer. It'll be like a mill pond. Commentator's curse, as it turned out. The trip started out all right. We put Spud's dog into a highly recommended kennels, which cost me an arm and a leg. Bloody Mutt was staying in plusher conditions than we were to enjoy in Glasgow. Anyway, we catch a train from Euston, which gets delayed, of course, so it's quite late by the time we find this cheap hotel I've booked us into. I'd asked for separate rooms, but there was only one double left by the time we roll in. Great. So I have to spend a sleepless night listening to Spud snoring for Scotland. I managed to get up 8:30, feeling like death, rouse Spud, and we head down for some breakfast. We both plumped for the full Scottish. Haggis, black pudding, the works. Another bad decision in the long run. Then we get lost trying to find the boat, and only just make the quayside as it's about to leave.
I didn't think we'd make it.
I told you your 40-a-day habit would catch up with you.
You're not in such great shape yourself.
Yeah, well, I keep promising myself I'll start going to the gym, but somehow I never seem to make it.
Welcome aboard the Waverley, the last seagoing paddle steamer in the world. During today's sailing, we'll be calling at Lags and Ayr before doing an afternoon cruise around Ailsa Craig. Passengers without a valid ticket should purchase one now from the purser's office, which is situated in the aft saloon on the promenade deck. Passengers who booked online will still need to obtain a valid ticket. Please present yourself along with your booking voucher at the purser's office. On behalf of the captain and crew of the Waverley, we wish you a pleasant voyage. Thank you.
Right, I better go and get the tickets. Look after the Hold'em.
I'll come with you.
If you must, I won't be long.
I don't know. But I don't like being on my own in strange places. I've got that, what do you call it, agoraphobia.
Well, trust you to have a guardian reader type complex.
I'm a very complex person, I'll have you know.
Who told you that? You shrink? You got any other interesting phobias?
It's no joke. I could suffer a panic attack.
Oh, you poor thing. Well, come on then, this way.
Yes, sir.
2 tickets for the cruise, please.
Very good, sir. That'll be £70, please.
I can pay by credit card, can't I?
Oh, yes, she may be an old ship, but we've got all the modern technology on board. If you'd just like to put your card in the machine and enter your PIN number.
That's odd. It's saying it's an invalid number.
If you'd like to try again, sir.
Still no go. Oh, this is a bit embarrassing. I changed my PIN number recently and I obviously haven't remembered the new one correctly.
I know, sir. It's easily done.
I've only got one more go. It's 3 strikes and you're out in this situation.
Do you have another card or method of payment? It's your call, sir.
Well, no. I haven't got 70 quid on me in cash either. And I didn't bring any other credit cards with me.
Try 6011.
What?
Go on, 6011. That's your number. I'd stake me life on it.
You're having a laugh.
No, seriously. That's your PIN number.
How the hell do you know that? Are you psychic or something?
No. I watched you punch that number into the machine yesterday when you were buying our train tickets. And I thought, that's funny. That's me birthday in reverse. 6011, the 11th of June. So it stuck on me mind.
Spud, you're a bloody marvel. A nosy Parker for spying on me like that, but in this case, I'll overlook it.
Here are your tickets, receipt and card, sir. Have a nice day.
Thanks. Right, let's go back outside. I love the smell of the sea. Just think, there were working shipyards all along here when this boat was built.
1946.
All right, Richard Osman. Go on then, how do you know that?
It's on that bloody big plaque in there. I was reading it while you were getting the tickets.
Yeah. Just hand me the camera out of the holdall so I can take a photo or two.
What holdall?
What do you mean, what holdall? The holdall containing the camera and the ashes. That holdall.
I haven't got it. You had it last.
No, I said I was going for the tickets and for you to look after it while I was gone, but then you decided to come along because of your agoraphobia. So I assumed you would bring the holdall as well.
But you never actually handed it to me.
That's because I assumed you'd pick it up when you followed me, you great plonker.
Don't you be calling me names. If I hadn't followed you, you wouldn't have been able to put the PIN number in the machine, and then we'd have had been thrown off the boat at the next stop.
Okay. Blaming each other isn't going to get us very far. The fact is, the holdall's gone. Some thieving git must have heart-finched it. Oh, but they've pocketed the camera and slung the bag over the side by now. Just great. I knew this trip would be jinxed. I had a feeling in my water.
Well, why don't we split up and go round the boat? You never know. We might get lucky and find it.
Pigs might fly, you mean? Yeah, you're right. It's worth a try. I'll go up the front end, you take the back.
I think you're supposed to say fore and aft when you're on the boat.
Whatever. We'll meet back here.
Would Mr. J. McIver please report to the purser's office immediately, please?
Yeah, you called my name over the PA. What's the problem?
Oh, it's you again. Mr. McIver, I take it.
The very same. What's up?
Lost anything?
Might have.
You don't sound entirely sure.
Well, yes, I do seem to have mislaid an item.
An item? And what sort of item do you have in mind, may I ask?
A small holdall type item.
And what would be contained inside this small holdall type item?
What is this? 20 questions? If you must know, a camera, a toothbrush and toothpaste. And some underwear.
Anything else?
Yeah, a flask.
Is the right answer. There you go, sir. Fortunately, a public-spirited passenger handed it in. You need to keep it close by you at all times in future. Any unattended baggage could be considered a security risk, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be more careful in future. I had hoped that would be the end of the unwished-for excitement for the day. But no, there was more to come. We sailed down the Clyde to Ayr, where we take on more passengers for the cruise to Ailshire Craig, and where I'm to drop off old Roger's second lot of ashes. The weather, having been quite warm and fine, suddenly changes. A sea fret comes in, the wind gets up, and the heavens open. Spud and me stay below decks in the bar, sinking a few beers till we get closer to Bun Island. Then it's time to go and brave the elements. Can you see it yet?
You can hardly see 10 yards in front of you. The mist's down so much.
Well, in that case, we might as well go and get it over with. It's not going to make much difference to Rog if his ashes are half a mile from Ailshire Craig or 5.5 miles away. He'll be in the neighbourhood. It's the thought that counts. We'll go up front. Sorry, 4. It'll be empty there.
Is it my imagination? Or is this boat starting to rock and roll?
Yeah, it's just a bit of a swell. You'll be fine. Come on your feet. Right, Spud, let's do this. ASAP. Here's the camera. I'll get the flask out. Be ready to fire off a few shots.
I don't feel too good. I think I'm going to be...
Oh, no. Oh, come on, Spud, get it together. I need you to take the photos.
I'm dying here.
There's plenty of time for that later. Look, just prop yourself up against the rail and get ready to press the button.
I got sick all down the front of me cool.
No, never mind that. You can clean that up later. Just hold that camera steady for a minute while I do the business, and then it'll all be over.
Oh, I just want to die.
What? You want me to chuck you over the side along with the ashes? I don't think so. Right, get ready to shoot. 1, 2, 3, Geronimo!
Ah, no. I got ashes all over me front. Ugh, that's gross.
What a state! You should just see yourself. Give me the camera. I need to have some evidence that I did throw the ashes over the side. Then we'll have a couple of you, Mr. Murphy, in all your glory. That's what I call a money shot.
It's not funny. Can we please get back inside? I'm tied to a cow's tail and scuttered to death here.
So, we'd completed the second stage of the challenge, after a fashion. I was concerned that Fring wouldn't accept the photographs as sufficient evidence because, well, most of the ashes had ended up pebble-dashed on the front of Spud's coat instead of on the surface of the sea. What added insult to injury was that half an hour later the weather changed again. The mist lifted, the sun came out, and we had a lovely clear view of Ailshire Craig and all the birds. Spud still wasn't talking to me, so the atmosphere on the homeward journey was, well, frosty, to say the least. The day after we got back to London, I called Thring to arrange our next meeting.
You have reached the number of Reginald Thring, solicitor. I'm afraid the office is closed until further notice. Please address all inquiries in writing. They will be dealt with in due course. Thank you for calling.
Now that was strange. I began to be even more baffled the next day when I went round to Thring's office in person and found it all shut up and looking distinctly unoccupied. Had he gone out of business? Or been taken ill? He hadn't looked particularly healthy the last time I saw him. Either way, my chances of completing Roger Soul's challenge and collecting a nice fat payout were now looking decidedly dodgy. I began to wonder if this was all some kind of hoax and whether Roger Soul was having a massive joke at my expense from beyond the grave.
In episode 1 of Ashes to Ashford by Nigel Banks, the part of Jimmy McIver was played by Mike Ravano, Spud Murphy by Mike Ayres, Reginald Thring by Nigel Banks, and Roger's Soul by Jim Newbury. The other parts were played by members of the cast. Sound effects and editing were done by Robbie Burgess, and this was an Old Dolly production.